J. It's 33 at our studios.
And a reminder, if you took part in our radio auction on Friday morning, you can still pick your stuff up. We'll be here during our regular business hours all this week. Try and do it this week because next week's Christmas. We'll be a little short-staffed. Things are going to be crazy, probably in your life as well. You can also call us and we can mail your auction items to you, 319-354-1242. But if you stop by the station, you can look through the leftover stuff and buy some of that as well. We have plenty of stuff left over. Right now, it's Wednesday. It's the noon hour. That means it is time for Senior Talk, which is brought to you by the Solon American Legion and returning senior benefits. Here's your host, Rex Brandstatter.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is time for Senior Talk. Thank you, Tommy, very much on such a beautiful, and I mean it, a beautiful December day out there. That's a kind of what they call a high sky. If you were playing the center field today, the high sky, boy, that means you couldn't see the ball. So it's really, really nice out there compared to what it could be. And I just heard the weather there was, what they say, spitting snow or winter mix. God, I hate that winter mix. There's nothing worse than a winter mix. Oh, not good. Well, it's winter, folks. Almost winter. We're going to talk about that in a minute. So listen, greetings and from Senior Talk. Welcome to Senior Talk, the weekly radio program for seniors and to those who hope to be a senior someday. I got to be honest with you. If you're not quite 60, which is a senior in my book when you're 60, that'd be a young senior, but a 60. Show might just be for you. Hello and thanks for listening to Senior Talk. You know, it's really not easy being a senior because we all think and talk about retirement, when and where and why we did it or why we should have stayed working or why we stayed working when we should have retired, health, income, financial issues, expenses, family, living arrangements, and more. And we talk about these and other things weekly here on Senior Talk and more, of course, as we go. And speaking as we go, I signed a contract here for another year, for 13 years, starting in January the 8th. And as long as I'm talking about it, I will not be here on Christmas Day or New Year's Day. So I will be back for Senior Talk, loaded for bear for 2025 on Wednesday, January 8th. So don't listen for me on Christmas Day. I know nobody would. I won't be here. So enjoy your time, that is for sure. You might hear something here on Senior Talk that can help you or maybe a friend of your friend or a family member. And I do my very best to bring a range of information every week. So we'll talk senior stuff, past people, places, and events. And all you have to do is grab yourself a sandwich and a nice cold root beer and just take a few minutes to see what we can cook up. My name is Rex Brandstatter. I'm 75 years old and have been a licensed Iowa real estate broker since 1974, for God's sakes. Richard Nixon was president. And I work mainly with seniors and senior families. I work with lots and lots of, unfortunately, but I work with a lot of estates. That's part of being in the senior business. I work with executors of estates, administrators. That'd be people who are in charge of the estate when the decedent did not have a will. I work with the attorneys call me, CPAs call me, trust departments of banks call me to help them settle real estate issues with seniors and like I say, estates. I work with a lot of seniors too who call me on the phone and or members of their family and say, we'd like to sit down and talk to you. Mom and dad have, or if it's a senior, we have an 8-plex or a 12-plex or a little commercial building, or we have a duplex or our own house. We'd like to talk to you about some things. And of course, that discussion is free and confidential. And you can give me a call on my senior line anytime at 319-330-5534. That is 330-5534. And I'm also on email at rexrb.com. R-E-X at rexrbs.com for good. Please give me a call if you'd like to chat about that. So I'd like to say hello to my friend who hadn't seen for a while. We met at the mall yesterday while I was out for a walk, and he was trying to jilt the Pepsi machine or something. And good to talk to you, and take care of yourself with my friend from Tiffin. So have a good Christmas. Thanks for listening, by the way. While on this date, I would point out that on December 18th in 1620, the Mayflower got here, for God's sakes. It's when it all went downhill from there. It all started then, on this date in 1620. And I might have said this last week, but a couple weeks ago. But the Mayflower was actually a wine cargo ship. a wine cargo ship, like a 150-ton wine cargo ship. So that's probably where it did start to go downhill. They probably brought the Pilgrims and a big load of wine, and that would have done it. I'm not a wine drinker, but that probably would have set us off, got us off on the wrong foot for sure. Well, something that just came to my mind, and we've got to talk about this more for sure. But now the government has laid down the law, laid down the gauntlet and the finish line. That after I'll have more, but I've got after May, I believe it's in May. I know it's in May. That you're going to have a driver's license. You're going to have what they call a real ID, and that is on your Iowa driver's license. You're going to have a gold star up in the upper right-hand corner. So get your driver's license out. If you don't have a gold star up on your right-hand corner, and to be about a fourth of as big as a dime up there, the big as of a eraser on a pencil up there, that's a gold star. You're going to have one if you want to fly on an airline, if you want to go into a government building. Well, I don't go into government buildings. Well, do you go down to the Johnson County Administration building? Well, yeah, I don't know about the post office. I know it's a government building. I don't know if it goes that far down. But that's what's going to happen. Well, we really don't fly. But what about this scenario? Your daughter or son or relation is down in Arizona or Oklahoma, somewhere in Texas, and they've got an emergency issue, a car accident, something like that. You have to get down there. If you don't have that gold star, you're not flying. You're going to be on a Greyhound. You're not going to make it. So you're going to have to. You can get it. It's pretty easy to get, but you have to do a little homework. Things like you have to round up your original Social Security card. Your original Social Security card. I've got one. I've got the star on mine. You're going to have to, if you go down to the driver's license, the bureau, have to have the original. That you have to have original or an executed copy that's authorized and notarized that this is a copy of the original birth certificate. Yeah. Or if you have a passport, that suffices all. You can take your passport in, show it down to get your driver's license, and you're going to have to renew your driver's license, by the way, and have that put on. And I don't know, I did it. I didn't renew. I just had that put on there. And it was very nominal fee, extremely nominal. So that's what you have to have. It's called a real ID. Not that your ID's fake, but it's called a real ID. We'll talk more about that. Say, when I was a kid, they always used to say, a Merry Christmas to you and yours, you and yours. And my brother and I will go, you and yours what? We never could figure that out. So it took me to probably till I was in high school to figure out who yours was. It's you and your family, you and your wife, you and your whoever it is, your uncles and stuff like that. So my brother and I, we were pretty close to with our brain power as kids. So we were you and yours, and we'd say, well, Dad, what's that mean? He'd go, well, someday you'll figure it out. Well, it took me to high school, I think. Oh. Well, what a week we had in the weather last week. It was cold, and I mean cold, and it was foggy and rainy. Wasn't that sad last Saturday? A piece of work, crappy all day, all weekend. It just wasn't nice. It must be Iowa, I guess. It was not nice on Saturday. A wasted whole day, I think. For the merchants, I didn't get to the mall, but I would have been to the mall or somewhere downtown somewhere to get in all the traffic. I'm a man, so I don't particularly shop, but not like the ladies do, and I mean that in a good way. Men buy, women shop, and then buy, but men just go buy. But that was really hard on the merchants this year, and all the malls are around eastern Iowa for sure because of the cold. And then because of the rainy and fog, and it just wasn't conducive to do that. So if you made it to the mall last Saturday or your shopping place, good for you, all right? We had a kind of a wild day. Today's Wednesday. On Monday, we had a wild day at our house. About 6:30 in the morning or so, the smoke alarm went off. Now, the smoke alarms in the newer homes, ours is 20 years old, but they're all wired in. So when one goes off, ladies and gentlemen, they all go off. It is absolute stereo sound, and they are designed to save your life, obviously, and so the sound is absolutely obnoxious. You can't think, you can't do anything. So usually, sometimes I tried to reset them. We tried all that, didn't work. So I called an electrician company, and they came out in the afternoon. I made my wife come to the office and work, and they went up there and fixed them all, and away we go. But boy, first of all, as an old firefighter, Corporal Fire Department for 20 years. We checked the house out for sure and make sure it wasn't that. But then these things are ionization, and it could have been something in the air. It could have been carbon monoxide. It could have been a lot of things, but there was no fire. So we had them fixed up, and away we go. But what a way to start your Monday morning, huh? Not good. That's what it was. So, we're 1 week from Christmas Day. A week from today is Christmas Day. And 2 weeks from today is New Year's Day. So adjust yourselves accordingly. Plenty of time for men to start thinking about Christmas shopping. I'm not saying you're going to run down there right away, but, it's a week out. You at least start thinking about it. And, of course, ladies, I'm sure the shopping mode has been on for quite some time. We are who we are. We operate the way we operate. So, as a kid, my brother and I, we started to see gifts under the tree about this time. And, my folks were never one to hide gifts. I know a lot of people, well, my folks had to hide them, or we had to hide the gifts from Johnny because that little fart would get up there get up there and get into stuff. So we had to hide the gifts. Well, that's part of it. I know a lot of people who do that. But my folks didn't do that. We were just given the warning of hanging in the front yard if we got underneath the tree and messed with the Christmas gifts. So we never did that, ever. I never touched one. And do not touch or shake or anything like that, or else. And that's all it was. It was just or else. I mean, and it wasn't going to be a whooping or anything like that. We didn't know what else meant. Neither did my folks. But we never pushed that envelope. We just would look at them and say, I would say the one I've got is a lot bigger than the one you're going to get. He said, well, I've got two and you've only got one. That type of thing. That went on, and that's part of Christmas. That's part of growing up. And my brother and I, we spent a lot of time trying to figure out what came in a box like that. And we weren't allowed to touch them, but I wonder how much it weighed. Sometimes we sneak over and weigh it, see how much it weighed. And it was all great anticipation, which is what, for kids, for kids now is what Christmas is about. I'm not saying that's the true meaning of Christmas. I'm not going to get into that. But for kids, it's the anticipation, and things like that. So we always did pretty good at Christmas. I have to be honest. Our folks were on top of things for us. And thank you to my long departed mom and dad. That's for sure. Well, as we can tell, not many people are fans of the recent crappy weather and the upcoming weather in January and February and March. But I always lay out a remedy. I have to plan my way through winter. Just me. I do it all the time. It's just me. And I have to see the end of the tunnel, and the end of the tunnel is, I always call the end of the tunnel April 1st. Now, it can be crappy on April 1st, but it's not like it's going to be in March the 31st, on January 15th, something like that. So I've kind of put together a timeline for myself, and it starts this Friday. What? It starts this Friday. Now, this Friday is what? December 21st, which is the vernal equinox, which means that the first official day of winter is this Friday. But what it means scientifically, as the old science major here will tell you, it means that the sun has gone as far south as it can go. And the sun is ready to turn around and come home, as I call it. All right? The sun has been, since the last June, the sun's been on vacation heading south. And it bottoms out. It's down in South America right now. Where is it down there? It's down in the Tropic of what? Tropic of what? I'll give you three choices. It's at the equator, it's at the Tropic of Cancer, or it's at the Tropic of Capricorn. You remember those from science class? Sure. Well, it's not at the equator, and the Tropic of Cancer is in the northern hemisphere. It runs down south of Cuba, so it's down at the Tropic of Capricorn. It's bottoming out, which gives us the shortest day of the year, which is this Friday, for God's sake, this Friday. And we're going to see actually today is a little bit shorter, but not official, a little bit shorter than this Friday. And this Friday is sunset at 4:39. 4:39. Oh, it's dark at 4 o'clock. Well, official sunset is 4:39 this Friday. Then it comes home. And we gained roughly, and this is around, but roughly a minute a day until it gets back here 6 months from now. Okay, it's going to get, so by April 1st, it's about halfway back up here, and it starts, the worm starts. So that's step number one. So this Friday, I'm going to cross that off my list, if good Lord will still have me here on Friday. And then, of course, another goal of mine is to get Christmas and New Year's Day behind us. They will occur, and we will have our thing with the bowl games and Christmas and the families and all those things. We'll get those behind us, and then we can march into January with our heads high, but knowing that we're going to take it in the shorts in January. So, next big goal after that, after the January 1, New Year festivities, is to get January behind us. Now, to me, that's the big one. get January behind us. That is 31 days that could be the nastiest ever. We all know that. And meteorologically speaking, if we talk to our friend Mace, who's now quarantined up in the North Woods up in Minnesota, good for him, is that January 15th is considered by the meteorological guys and ladies to be dead end, the bottom of the barrel of winter. And things biologically also start turning on January 15th, even though it could be 15 below zero. That's just a range, just an overall average, all right? So now if we can get all those things behind us, including January, and my mom always used to say, Rex, don't wish your life away. Well, I'm always wishing that I had January behind us, so I'm going to wish January behind, not my whole life, just January. So off we go into January, the coldest and worst weather month in Iowa. But once we get January behind us, we have two new hopes for spring. So once we have January behind us, we have two new hopes. We have Groundhog Day, where what? Everybody in the United States starts talking about spring. See if that little varmint will see it as a shadow or not, and I could care less because it doesn't mean anything. But it gets us talking and thinking about spring. And that's on February the 2nd. And then we have Valentine's Day on the 14th, which is got nothing to do with spring, but boy, we're starting to cruise. And then the best one ever, folks. The best one ever, as a sign of spring, is those famous words, pitchers and catchers report, and that comes in the middle of February. And that means spring training for baseball. And yes, I watch spring training games from Arizona and Florida. Do my best just to get a flavor of what's to come. So that's what I've got going. All right, so now I'm start this Friday. My check off starts this Friday, and then Christmas Day and New Year's Day, and then we've got some of them done, and then we have to slog through January. So together we'll make it. We absolutely will. All right. And another little goal in my life is to never have snow in December. That's the January. We got to say, hey, we're here. We're dumb enough to be here. We're going to take it in the shorts, and we're here. Bring it on, if that's what you're going to do. So we can get through there. You see how simple my life is? It doesn't always go the way I want to do it, of course, because I have no control over that, but that's my thing. And by the way, before I forget it, if you want to have some fun this weekend, Saturday night, the Iowa Heartlanders are at home out at the arena in Coralville, and they're having a great season. Now, they got beat last night, but they're really having a great turnaround season, and good for them. A lot of young guys playing that hard-hitting, fast-moving, that's what I like about it, fast-moving hockey. My wife and I go, we don't even know all the rules. But it is they have a good time down there, and hockey is really a wonderful sport. And the referees, there's usually 3 referees, sometimes 4. They don't mess around. They get that thing going. It's if you will, hard-hitting, fast-paced sport, and we really like it. So this Saturday down at the arena, the puck drops. Listen to me, I talk like an old pro. They drop the puck at 6 o'clock, so get down there and get a parking space. Lots of parking down there, and have at it. Go in there and get yourself a cold Coke or a sandwich and watch some hockey. It's a fun time. Well, a senior lady was telling me that which is my husband and I don't buy gifts for one another, and we haven't for several years. We are comfortable in this, and it works for us. If I want something, I just go buy it anytime, same for him. Well, that's kind of the same way at our house. If I want something, I don't wait for Christmas to get my wife to buy me some socks. I just go buy them. And when she goes shopping, she goes shopping. Sometimes she goes with a couple friends, and I don't know what they do. I don't want to be there. And look what I got today. Look what I ordered today, type of thing. And we like to buy things locally the best we can, and support our local businesses for sure. Just the way we are at our house. So they don't buy gifts for each other. I don't know what I'd buy my wife. Maybe I don't really know. I'm not going to go down and pick things. I used to when we were first married. I was all about that. And I would go to stores here in town and buy things that I'd like to have my wife wear, or jewelry, or clothing, or something like that. And I was all about that, and I spent a lot of time thinking about it. And now, 50-some years later, at age 75, well, what can I buy her she doesn't have? Or if she wanted it, she would have bought it. So we just sit and look and smile at each other. How's that? That's about the best we could do, honest to God. That works for us, so it works for these folks for sure. Well, a senior man says we'll have 3 grandkids, ages 10, 12, and 13 here at the house for 5 days over Christmas. He didn't say that with a lot of cheer and oomph and zip, but I know he means it well. He says, I'll bet Grandma and I are beat after the visit. So I'll bet that's true. I don't doubt that. You've got basically looks like like we'll call it 3 teenagers coming to town, and they're from out of town, so you don't know what they like or don't like, so you're going to have to try to keep them going and doing some things like that. Well, I would imagine that you're going to have your days full of things, thinking about things. Well, I got a couple ideas for you. Call me on my senior line at 330-5534. I can do that for sure. I can give you some ideas. I know that if you've got your brother coming to town, or some folks about your age coming to town, you honest to gosh don't know what to do. I think there's a lot of things you could do, and I think one of the things you could do is you could head out to some museums. And I don't know what you're thinking about museums when I talk about museums. I got all kinds of things about museums that I think you should go see. And I think you should go to the Johnson County Historical Society Museum and the Eastern Iowa Antique Car Museum. They're both in the same building right there where they play hockey, the Extreme Arena. Folks, for $10, you see 2 museums, and you can spend either an afternoon there or a couple hours and take your group down there, whatever it might be, maybe just you and your brother-in-law, and you're going to leave the women folk behind or go shopping. You guys could run down there and see some cars and some really, really outstanding displays of items that are germane to the history of Johnson County. And they have all kinds of things down there. So for $10, you get to see both wonderful museums, and the car museum is full of neat cars. My golly, not the new stuff, but the stuff you could see how it was made, when it was made, and why it was made, things like that. If you're a car guy or a car gal, that's the place to be. So there you go. And we have I think there are 10 altogether. I think presidential museums, and they're updating and upgrading the Hoover museums. And you might take a run over to West Branch and go through the Hoover Museum. And he was president, of course, during the Depression, and they blame it all on him. But it was not all Herbert Hoover. It was part of the economy at the time. So it's a wonderful display, a presidential museum over there. Now, you would not be able to go there after May if you do not have a real ID. If you've got to have that ID, if they ID you at a federal building, a government building. Well, let me ask you this: when you were a kid, did you go visit? I'm asking you now, folks, straight out. When you were a kid, did you go visit family and meet with cousins you didn't see very often during the year? So on Christmas, over the weekend, or sometime over Christmas holiday, did you go visit some of your relations, some cousins that you didn't get to see all the time? Well, we did. We went mostly just down to Muscatine, where my mom is from, and I have a lot of first cousins down there. And, by golly, a lot of them are gone now. That's the hard part. But we all grew up together, and that was a lot of fun. And it lasted, maybe sometimes we'd stay for a weekend or overnight, and even if it was just the afternoon, it was a lot of fun being with your cousins. It's just like being with your brothers or your sisters. They're part of your family. So if you're going to do that, why, good for you. See how much trouble you can get in on a Christmas Day afternoon at Grandma's house was our goal. And looking back on it, my grandma had my mom's side had a house in Muscatine, a nondescript house. It's a residential area, not fancy. It built after World War II. We wonder how we all got in that house. I've driven past it, probably not for 10 years, but there's no way we could have got all those cousins and aunts and uncles and had a big Christmas dinner in that house or Thanksgiving. It just wouldn't have worked. But, we were all family, and we did. Kind of ate in shifts. The younger kids ate at the card table. Part of the deal. Still that way today, probably at your house. But it was a good time. So we got to see cousins we didn't get to see. I always liked doing that. So let me ask you this: do you go Christmas shopping? Did you go as a kid, or maybe a teenager, and buy for your siblings or your mom and dad? I did, and like I say, it was fun. Back then, I always found something that I wanted too. So when and if I do go shopping, I just buy. If I do. Before I buy something for my wife, I'm selfish enough. I buy something for myself first. Because as a man, I don't shop. God, if I want something, I just go buy it. So when I just head out to shop, I just buy myself stuff. Make me feel like I'm really doing something for myself. Well, the way it is. Did you go to a store in your town? So back where you're from, did you go to a store you had to go every year? We're going to go down to the Benjamin Franklin store, or we always hit Woolworths or things like that. Is there a place you always went to, a 5 and dime store? Remember those dime stores? Boy, in Iowa City, we had Kresge's downtown Iowa City. We had Woolworths, maybe more. I have to think about it. But Those were big as you just had to go there. You never knew what you were going to find there. That was the fun part about a dime store. So back in your hometown, was there a place you all went? I bet there was. And while you were doing that, did you all go to a place and have something to eat? Make an afternoon of it. It was just kind of a fun times. Recall, I was with my mom and dad and other family members. Sometimes we'd meet downtown and go this or that. Did you go make a trip to a bigger town with more stores? Did you stop along the way and get yourself something to eat or drink? Was there a special store or restaurant that you always had to visit to see the Christmas displays and things like that? Well, that's just part of the season. And downtown Iowa City, case in point, used to have all kinds of Christmas things up on across the streets, big banners across the streets with lights on them and things like that. And we would go downtown to see the Christmas lights, and you could actually, the street lights were on, the Christmas lights were on. You could park downtown and see them walk around. The stores were open. It was a big deal. And in your town, I hope you got to partake in some of those things. Some of those towns are still doing it today, that it's the place to be, and good deal for them. But there was no mall in the 50s or 60s when I was a kid here, so we went downtown. Lots of stores and outdoor lights and people shopping and cars looking for car parking spaces and people bustling, and it was really quite a spectacle on a Iowa City wasn't what it is now. Corvo wasn't anything when I was a kid. 1,200, now 22,000 for God's sakes. It just was a part of growing up. And in your town, I bet you had the same type of thing if you're from a smaller town. Good memories, I hope, for sure. When we did go downtown Iowa City, they planned it out. My mom would plan it out, I guess, and we would go to Yonkers which is actually where SS Krisky's was, across from Bremer's on Washington Street. And several trips up the escalator, never down, because they had a stairway that came down. If you walk back down, you get your fanny kicked, or some old lady working there would yell at you. You boys, get out of here. You boys not supposed to go down. Always went to Yonkers over there to ride the escalator, and then a good old trip over to Hotel Jefferson. We'd make my folks cut through the Hotel Jefferson so my brother and I could sit on the big overstuff. It was the Hotel Jefferson at the time, right there on the southwest corner of Dubuque Street in Washington. And they had the nicest, biggest overstuffed chairs and couches, Davenports in there. We'd just sit on those things for 4 or 5 minutes, and my folks would look around like, don't let anybody see us there. They looked like we're the Clampetts coming to town, sitting on furniture. But that was just a highlight, if you will. And my dad always went to Short's shoe shines for a big shine, a quick shine, if we got there early enough in the afternoon, if he was not working. And we just had a big time down there, really. We went over to Drew's Toy Center. Do you remember John Drew's Toy Center? Hobby Center over there on Dubuque Street, across the street from the Deadwood Tavern. It's right along in there with let's see what's in there. The Taste of India, is that in there? Noodles, Which along in there. Prairie Lights. That's where the John Drew's Toy Center was. And trust me, folks, that was the place to be as a kid. You wanted to go down to Drew's. We lived right next door to them in Coralville, you bet. And they had Lionel trains. And they had a big rack on the wall, and they had Lionel trains all spread out on the wall so you could look at them. Had a couple going in there. I saw my first saucer, one of those things you go down the hill instead of a sled, a saucer, which I went down. I used twice. My brother got one year. Those things made me dizzy. I didn't use them, but they were the. Speaking of sleds going down a hill, all of us regular schlubs, we had a Silver Streak. That was the standard of the industry, a Silver Streak sled. But all the Rolo the Rich kids had the Flexible Flyer. And a Flexible Flyer, they were the same deal, Flexible Flyer and our Silver Streak, or Montgomery Ward's, whatever they made, Sears. Maybe Sears made Silver Streaks, I don't really know. But the Flexible Flyer, it was different in that when you laid on your stomach and went down, you put your hands up there to, quote, drive it. The Flexible Flyer had a big loop of metal up there, so it was like a handle, like reaching into a loop for handle, like it was official there. And it was flexible. You could actually turn and the left and right runners would sort of lean, sort of steer to the left and the right. But guys like me, we just get laid down on our flexible flyers. The Silver Streak, I had a Silver Streak. The runners would kind of turn, and when you wanted to turn, you dragged your left foot if you wanted to go right, or dragged your left foot to go left and right foot. You know, kind of basic stuff. That's the way it was. We didn't care. But boy, if we ever volunteered, can I ride on your flexible flyer? Man, sure. My buddy Tom had one, and I rode that thing a million times, and it didn't really go any faster or any farther. Depends on which length you had. If you have a 5-footer or a 6-footer, they were a little different. But those were fun time, folks, all during Christmas break. And over at Short Shine, they had a big row of chairs there. They were over on where Short's Burgers is right now. Big long line of guys, mostly black guys, worked there. That's that family, the Short family and the Bell family. They owned that, and they'd shine your shoes. And always the businessmen of this town who went there always tipped those guys. Took them Christmas gifts. My dad did. It was a real honest to goodness business in there, much needed and much missed, by the way. That was part of the thing. And we always stopped over at Mott's Drugstore, which was next to Drew's over there on Dubuque Street, because they had a machine round and round with a plate, had a big light bulb in there, and it had cashews and all stuff, and the light bulb made them heated. And you get a little bitty sack for like $38. Seemed like it. Probably was $1.19 or 69 cents when we had 8 cents in our pocket as a kid when we go downtown. But the treat for us was my aunt worked there. So we usually sort of got a little bit bigger bag for the going price. That was kind of a treat for us, and she always wanted to know how we were doing, what we were buying. Not that she cared, but it's just a good feeling at Christmas time. So we always went there. And over to Wilson Sporting Goods, for God's sake. Now, Wilson Sporting Goods was over there. As you look at the Englert, they were the first or second door to the left. That's where Wilson Sporting Goods was for a long, long time when I was a kid. And as a kid, no trip downtown. No trip downtown, whether it was the middle of July, was worth it while unless you went over to Novotny's bicycle store, which is over next to the White Way. My mom used to go to the White Way grocery store over on Clinton Street, which is across from where Penny's was in the mall. It's next to Novotny's bicycle store. Only they were north of the alley, White Way north of the alley. Novotny sold Schwinn bicycles. There'd be a row of bikes in there, green ones and blue ones and red ones and tricycles for little kids, and they actually had a Harley-Davidson dealership in there, believe it or not. And you had to go down there because that was on your wish list. And I'd say, I want that. I'd like to have that one, Dad. If I wanted it, that's never going to go. But I'd sure like to have that one. And the rule was at our house, we'll figure that out. You come up with half after he bought me my first one. You come up with half, and I'll come up with half. Now, that meant mow yards. I couldn't mow our yard and make any money because that was part of living at the house. I had to mow our yard for free. But I could surely mow my grandma and grandpa's yard and get $1.25. That's what the going rate was for 3 lots, folks. 3 lots. One where the house was and one on either side. So that's kind of what Christmas was to us. And, of course, then we'd have the standard thing, open the presents. And that's just what it was. We had a lot of time to do that. And there really wasn't a really good trip downtown on a Christmas season unless we went over to Sidwell's ice cream store, which was, maybe you had this in your town too, a place you had to go to, a food place. Well, we had to go to Sidwell's at our house, and it was over on Iowa Avenue next to Joe's place. My dad probably went into Joe's. I don't remember. But went in there, and they had chairs lined up along the west wall, and they had a big, long case. It was hard-packed ice cream. And they had, if you will, little old ladies wearing aprons and little white hats on, dipped ice cream, and they were the nicest little old ladies in the world. Took the time to wait on you and let you look through the glass and what's that? That's butterscotch or butter pecan, and that's orange sherbet. All those things. Slower times, my friends. Slower time. We always did that for sure. And then my folks would talk about, they never said what they bought, but said, we got Rex all lined up, or we got my brother Rox all lined up, and things like that. That's a long time ago, and these are good boyhood memories for me. And one other thing, I was talking to some people. Now, when I was a kid in grade school, I talked to a fellow senior, and we were talking about Christmas break. And if Christmas was during the week, we got out of the elementary school and or junior high, and I was a kid, at noon on Christmas Eve day. Noon on Christmas Eve day. So we got Christmas Eve afternoon off. We were out of school. And we were out until January the 2nd, depending on the calendar, of course. All right. So that seemed like a long time to us. How about now? I don't really know, but I do know it's a lot longer. I think Christmas break might have started already. This finals week at the university this week, so Christmas break in Iowa City is going to be probably. I'm just going to guess at the end of school this Friday. I'm going to guess. I don't know. So that means they'd have all next week off, and the next week after January 1st. I don't know what those kids do all the time. It used to get kind of boring sometimes, but as long as we had our buddies, we could go throw snowballs and build forts if it snowed. Fun things as a kid, ladies and gentlemen. That's part of something we seniors do. We seem to remember some things, you know. So at the school, before they let us out, we had an all-school Christmas party in the gym. And one or more teachers were wearing Christmas or Santa Claus hats. I don't think they can do that today. And they also had a couple of teachers would be playing the piano, and a certain class, the fifth grade, would sing, I don't know, Jingle Bells, and the third grade would sing Frosty the Snowman. It was a big, exciting, fun thing as a kid. And so as seniors, the best we can do sometimes is just remember how much fun it was as a kid. As a senior, of course, we know there's more meaning to Christmas than presents and singing Christmas songs, but that's what it was. So, and you might also say that if there was snow on the ground, no Christmas break was official unless we went down. We went sledding at the Finkbine Golf Course. We'd park along the Corville Strip. They'd either drop us off, or the neighbor guy would always take us down. My dad never went on that. He said, not going to do that. And we would go down to the Finkbine Hill, which was about where the Vine is now, right straight across from the Vine was the best hill, right above the number 5 green on Little Finkbine. That was the best hill. That's where all the action took place, and that's where you got to see kids with these newfangled saucers and the new sleds. That was the hot deal, folks. That was a big deal. So we always hoped we had some snow. We didn't want the snow, but we wanted some snow so we could do this. So that was Christmas when I was a kid, and we got Christmas coming up next week. So you got a lot to look forward to. I've got a lot of assignments coming up. I don't want you to go away think I didn't give you an assignment for Christmas. I want you to think about it. Not even think about it. I want you to do this. I looked in our official junk drawer. We have an official junk drawer at our house, and it's mine, of course. My wife won't admit to it, but I was looking for something in the junk drawer, and I pulled out a pocket knife that I hadn't seen in a long time. I actually had bought a new one to replace that one, so that's my fault. I now have 2 of them. Got one in my pocket right now. I always carry a pocket knife, but don't carry one to the arena when you go in there to see hockey. They'll take it away, or they'll tell you can't come in. So anyhow, I cleaned out the junk drawer. I found all kinds of things. Gee, when did I get that? How I forgot I had that. Gee whiz, there it is. I want you to clean out your junk drawer. Do you have half-empty jars and containers of ketchup and pickles in your refrigerator? Well, we're going to get started cleaning things out in January 8th. This is just a little itty-bitty ones you could do. That's what you can do. That's your assignment. Start to get, because we're going to rumble here on January the 8th. We're going to start getting everybody in shape on how to get rid of things for deadline of April 1st. We're going to impose a 90-day, and you get the first 8 days of January. I won't be here. So for 81 days, we're going to have a session here where you got to get rid of stuff, folks. So that's the story from Senior Talk. We've got Christmas. We're staring down the gun barrel of Christmas and New Year's. The Hawks are going to be playing all kinds of things. I want you to cheer them on the best you can. And but when we come back, we're going to mean all business right here. So thank you, each and every one of you who say hi to me, call me with these little vignettes we talk about. Everything is important. I had a great call this morning. Get this, a great call this morning about a man who's a landlord here in town, by the way. He's not in Iowa City. And he broke the lease. The tenant came and said she got a job transfer, so they broke the lease. But her friend, her other, keeps going to the house. There's no lease, and he tried to get rid of him and called the police. The police said, we can't do anything about it. He's a squatter, so now he has to go to an attorney. And those are crazy things in the real estate business that go on. We'll talk about those and more. Well, thanks for listening to me. I'm Rex Brandstatter. Thanks for tuning in to Senior Talk in 2024. And yes, I have signed a contract. I'll be back next year. I don't know why they want me back, but I'm going to have more fun next year. Tommy, Merry Christmas to you. We'll see you next time. So long.
Hi, this is Tiffany at